Thank you. Thank you, Gandharvi Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Dandavata pranam to her. Hari Bol.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalaṁ Shri Gurun Vaishnavaṁ Shri Rupam Sagrajatanam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Vayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Matsamo Nasti Papatma Naparadhi च कश्चन परिहारे लज्जामि किं ब्रुवे पुरुषोत्तम भूमौ स्खलितपादानां भूमिरेवावलम्बनं त्वयि जातापराधानां त्वामेव शरणं प्रभो गोविन्द वल्लभे राधे प्रार्थये त्वमहं सदा त्वदीयम् इति जानातु गोविन्दो मां त्वया सह राधा राधित राधेश राधिका प्राणवल्लभ राधा रमण वन्दे त्वं राधिका प्रेम निर्चिता. So I'm thankful to all of you for joining, and Koladvipa Prabhu, I'm especially grateful to see you, Ankur, Prame, Gandharvi Kamatji, Naveen, Rohini, Mir. So today I was planning to do a little bit on the pastime of Putana from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's especially mentioned in the 10th canto, the 6th chapter. Um, Maybe we can go over that pastime, and we have a special benediction at the end of that pastime, which we all can hope to achieve as we narrate, discuss, and describe this beautiful pastime of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So, if we can go to the 10th canto. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, we can do maybe Rohini, you can start us off by reading the summary of the chapter, please.
Hare Krishna. A summary. The killing of the demon Putana. A summary of the 6th chapter is as follows. When Nanda Maharaj, following the instructions of Vasudeva, was returning home, he saw a great demoniac woman lying on the road, and then he heard about her death. While Nanda Maharaj, the king of Vraja, was thinking about Vasudeva's words concerning disturbances in Gokul, he was a little afraid and sought shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Hari. Meanwhile, Kamsa sent to the village of Gokul a Rakshasi named Putana, who was wandering here and there, killing small babies. Of course, wherever there is no Krishna consciousness, there is the danger of such Rakshasis. But since the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself was in Gokul, Putana could expect nothing there but her own death. One day, Putana arrived from outer space in Gokul, the home of Nanda Maharaj, and by displaying her mystic power, she assumed the disguise of a very beautiful woman. Taking courage, she immediately entered Krishna's bedroom without anyone's permission. By the grace of Krishna, no one forbade her to enter the house or the room, because that was Krishna's desire. The baby Krishna, who resembled a fire covered by ashes, looked upon Putana and thought that he would have to kill this demon, the beautiful woman. Enchanted by the influence of Yoga Maya and the personality of Godhead, Putana took Krishna upon her lap, and neither Rohini nor Jashoda objected. The demon Putana offered her breast for Krishna to suck, but her breast was smeared with poison. The child Krishna therefore squeezed Putana's breast so severely that in unbearable pain she had to assume her original body and fell to the ground. Then Krishna began playing on her breast just like a small child. When Krishna was playing, the gopis were pacified and took the child away to their own laps. After this incident, the gopis took precautions because of the attack of the Rakshasi. Mother Yashoda gave the child her breast to suck and then laid him in the bed. Meanwhile, Nanda and his associates, the cowherd men, returned from Mathura, and when they saw the great dead body of Putana, they were struck with wonder. Everyone was astonished that Vasudeva had foretold this mishap, and they praised Vasudeva for his power of foresight. The inhabitants of Vraja cut the gigantic body of Putana into pieces, but because Krishna had sucked her breast, she had been freed from all sins, and therefore when the cowherd men burned the pieces of her body in a fire, the smoke filled the air with a very pleasing fragrance. Ultimately, though Putana had desired to kill Krishna, she attained the Lord's abode. From this incident, we gain the instruction that if one is attached to Krishna, somehow or other, even as an enemy, one ultimately attains success. What then is to be said of devotees who are naturally attached to Krishna in love? When the inhabitants of Vraja heard about the killing of Putana and the welfare of the child, they were very much satisfied. Nanda Maharaj took the baby Krishna on his lap and was filled with satisfaction. Thank you.
as we do the Sanskrit, then thank you. As we do the Sanskrit, then one devotee can call upon others in the audience to read the English translation, please. I mean, we can go in a rotation basis. We are just 10 of us. Sindhu, Kanya, and Sachin, thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam.
Very well.
Krishna Prabhu. Dhanwad
Very
Pranam.
well. Shri Shuka Uvacha Nandapati Vacha Shaurir Namrisheti Vinchintayan Harinjagama Sharanam Utpata Gama Shankita. Kuladvipa Prabhu, maybe you can take the lead in asking others to join or ask them to read, please. If that's okay with you. If you are
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji, sure.
Monthly.
Yeah, so I want to request Gandharvika Radha Mataji to start with.
So, Prabhu, the translation?
Yes, Mate, only the translation. We'll quickly go
Sure.
through the chapter.
Sukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, while Nanda Maharaj was on the way home, he considered that what Vasudeva had said could not be false or useless. There must have been some danger of disturbances in Gokula. As Nanda Maharaj thought about the danger for his beautiful son Krishna, he was afraid and he took shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Controller.
Thank you, Mataji. So in the previous chapter, Nanda Maharaj goes to Mathura to pay the taxes. And while he is gone, he meets Vasudeva, who actually is a cousin, because Vasudeva's father was a Kshatriya, or Vasudeva's grandfather was a Kshatriya, and he married two wives, and because of which Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj shared the same grandfather or father, same father. So Nanda, first of all, Vasudeva was anxious because at the time of Krishna's birth, he had switched. He had gone to Vrindavan. He got the female child that was born of Mother Yashoda, and he goes back to the prison of Kamsa after switching the babies. He hasn't heard anything. In those days, we never had email or FaceTime or webcams, so to see how was Krishna doing in Vrindavan. But Krishna was his son, and Vasudeva was anxious. He secretly asks Nanda Maharaj about how the welfare of Krishna and Balaram, and he says to them that once now you have paid back your taxes in Mathura, now you should hurry back to Vrindavan because I foresee danger. Vasudeva was a politician and he had his own sources of information. Besides, he was divinely empowered by Krishna because Krishna took birth as his son. And both the reasons, Vasudeva knew about the danger that would befall in Vrindavan. So he urged um, Nanda Maharaj, you should go back. And this is the verse that is being mentioned here, or this is the thought that's being mentioned here, where Nanda was remembering the words of Vasudeva. Text 2, please. Kamsena prahita ghora putana balaghatini shishums chachara nignanti puragrama vrajadishu.
Sindhu Kanya Mataji, you want to read the next translation?
Yeah. While Nanda Maharaj was returning to Gokula, the same fierce Putana whom Kamsa had previously engaged to kill babies was wandering about in the towns, cities, and villages doing her nefarious duty.
Thank you. The word nigadnanti is used here, and the acharyas say that the poison was so deadly, was so devastating that it would kill the babies who were unfortunate to suck her breast in a moment. In a second, they were gone. That was the power of her poison. And the same Rakshasi was now fiercely going around trying to kill the babies. Text 3. Nayatra Shravanadini Raksho Gnani Swakarmasu Kurvanti Satvatam Bhartur Yatu Dhanyascha Tatrahi.
Dhiro Prashant Prabhuji, translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada. My dear King, whenever people in any position perform their occupational duties of devotional service by chanting and hearing Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, there cannot be any danger from bad elements. Therefore, there was no need for anxiety about Goloka while the Supreme Personality of Godhead was personally present.
Because the hero here is Krishna, Parikshit Maharaj has been waiting for 9 cantos, and he wanted to hear the source of all joy and opulence of the Supreme Absolute Truth as Krishna. And one of the dangers when it was mentioning, oh my goodness gracious, how many babies were already killed in Gokula? It's a natural question that devotees might ask, that how many people were, or how many babies were killed in Gokul, Vrindavan, and it's mentioned none. The answer was none, because of the simple fact that Krishna was present, and when Krishna is present, and when wherever Krishna was there was nothing, there was no other duty of the ladies of Rajabhumi, of the Gopas of Rajabhumi, of the cows of Rajabhumi, of the peacocks, the parrots, the deer. There was no other purpose except to chant the names of Krishna, to glorify Krishna. Not out of meditation, not out of a serious sadhana practice, because these exalted devotees were so far beyond sadhana that spontaneously they were just attracted to Krishna. There was this natural flow of devotion to Krishna, and part of it was to just chant the names of Krishna, glorify Krishna, sing of his activities. So when in this atmosphere, when whole of Vrindavan was just uttering the names of Krishna, then Shukdev Goswami says, what fear can be there? And similarly, we are enveloped by the greatest fear these days, the COVID, and then every sort of danger that is there. But rest be assured, if we can chant the names of Krishna, then none of the fears can touch us. Just like, um, Putana comes to kill Krishna, COVID can come to suck the life out of people. So, Krishna's name can just be very, very powerful antidote to such things. Let's continue. Hare Krishna, Shraddha Mataji, welcome.
Hare Krishna, Srivasa Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Sorry, I'm late. It's just coming from a meeting.
I'm glad you came. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sakecharyekodpatya Putanananda Gokulam Yoshitva Mayatmanam Pravishat Kamacharini.
Shraddha Devi Mataji, you want to go ahead and read the translation?
Thank you. Dandavat Pranams. Once upon a time, Putana Rakshasi, who could move according to her desire and was wandering in outer space, converted herself by mystic power into a very beautiful woman and thus entered Gokula, the abode of Nand Maharaj.
Thank you. The Acharyas explain here that that Putana's brother was Bakasura, who assumed a powerful big stork and he gobbled up Krishna. Putana, being his sister, had similar such powers, and it is mentioned who could move according to her desire and wandering in the outer space. She also had a similar bird-like form. She converted into bird-like form, and like Garuda, she was wandering every which way. And then she landed in the middle of night into Gokula after seeing this, because you need like a kind of a satellite view. Because if you try to do this operation in one by one, going from one village to another. By the time Putana is done with 100 children, they will be about to retire into their 60 years. You needed to go a little more faster, and you needed some sort of like satellite kind of overview, and it had to be like hover, attack, and then go on to the next village. So that's the kind of mystic power that she had. And so it is said, the acharyas have said that she had a bird-like form where she could fly in the outer space, keeping track of which villagers to kind of go attack, and then she would swoop in. So she came in, she flew in the middle of night to Vrindavan, and she landed into the forest. As soon as she landed into the forest, people might be wondering, such huge bird can cause a lot of disturbance, and people might be awakened. So as soon as she landed in the forest of Vrindavan, she assumed the form of a tiger and roared loudly. Because of which, people thought, oh, it's just a forest tiger, not to be worried about. And so then she assumed the form. Let's read a little more. Tam keshabandhavyatishaktamallikam vrihannitambastanakritya madhyama सुवाससङ्कल्पितकर्णभूषणा त्रिशोल्लसत्कुन्तलमण्डिताना वल्गोस्मितापाङ्गविसर्गवीक्षितैर्मनोहरन्तीं वनितां रजौकशाम् अमं अमं शताम्भोजकरेण रूपिणीं गोप्या श्रियं द्रष्टुमिवागतं पतिम्.
Ankur Prabhuji, you want to go ahead?
Sure, Prabhu. Her lips were full, her breasts were large and firm, seeming to overburden her slim waist, and she was dressed very nicely. Her hair, adorned with a garland of mallika flowers, was scattered about her beautiful face. Her earrings were brilliant, and as she smiled very attractively, glancing upon everyone, her beauty drew the attention of all the inhabitants of Braja, especially the men. When the gopis saw her, they thought that the beautiful goddess of fortune, holding a lotus flower in her hand, had come to see her husband Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So, a couple of points here. Srila Prabhupada, one or two other questions can be, because villages are really close-knit communities. Everybody knows everybody. And when all of a sudden the stranger comes in, then wouldn't people be concerned, like, who is this new stranger? Was this possible, or how did this happen? That's just a question I pose. As we go ahead a few more verses, then we'll discover the mystery to the answer to that particular question. So let's continue reading a little bit more. बालाग्रहस्तत्र विचिन्वते शिशून् यदृच्छयानन्दगृहे सदन्तकम् बालं प्रतीच्छन्न निजोरुतेजसं तदर्श तल्पेऽग्निनिवाहिताम्भसि.
Timinandi Prabhuji, you want to read the next translation?
Thank you, Prabhu. While searching for small children, Putana, whose business was to kill them, entered the house of Nanda Maharaj unobstructed, having been sent by the superior potency of the Lord. Without asking anyone's permission, she entered Nanda Maharaj's room, where she saw the child sleeping in bed. His unlimited power covered like a powerful fire covered by ashes. She could understand that this child was not ordinary, but was meant to kill all demons.
So the answer to the question is, Lord's Yogamaya potency actually covered the discrimination power of the gopis. In fact, Mother Yashoda and Rohini actually were asking, who is this person? And they actually, the acharyas say, because Putana's pastimes have much more vivid details because it is mentioned in Harivamsha Purana, it's mentioned in Garga Samhita, it's mentioned in Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it's mentioned in Padma Purana, in Vishnu Purana, few other places. So it seems in one of the Puranas, the Acharyas say that Mother Yashoda and Rohini did go and ask, "Who are you? Where have you come from?" Because it is 100% natural. You can you can enter into the house where the male member might not be really aware, but the lady of the house will be very aware of who's entered. And so the mothers did ask Putana, and she said, "Oh, I am here. I am the wife of a Brahmana from the nearby village, and I heard that this you have been blessed with a beautiful boy. I came to offer him my blessings." And when you say you are the wife of a Brahmana, then pretty much nobody is going to stop you. And then whatever little doubts Mother Yashoda and Mother Rohini had about Putana, they were covered by the Yogamaya potency because it was Krishna's desire to um, kill Putana. So, um, so that's why she entered. One point it struck I when I was reading this was the example in Bhagavatam, is it little appropriate? Because I was not sure, is it a rasabhas or is it something that is appropriate? Koladvipa Prabhu and Shraddha Mataji and Gandharika Mataji might kind of get the question. That mother, so the comparison was made as if goddess of fortune is visiting her lord, but goddess of fortune visits or is attached to Lord Vishnu and not Krishna. And now her lord is in the form of a baby. So the relationship or the example seem little inapt because we know of Lakshmi Devi massaging the lotus feet of Krishna, but not offering her body to give Krishna as a breast milk. So the comparison seemed somewhat puzzling to me, to say the least. Bhagavatam is Amala Puran, and every word of Srimad Bhagavatam is perfect. And when we get doubts like this, it is our own lack of intelligence that we are able to grasp. It's not the discrepancy of Bhagavatam, the discrepancy in our own intelligence. And beautifully, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes that this example is used because Nanda Maharaja's Ishtadev, or the deities that they worship in the house, was Narayan. And then Putana came to see the deity Narayan in the house rather than meeting her Lord Krishna. So it can here Lakshmi can mean both the Narayan deity at the house or it can mean Krishna. But in this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says it is the household deity of Nanda Maharaj that she came to worship. And as a incidentally, she could also bless Krishna. So that was the kind of scenario or the construct here. Kuladvipa Prabhu, any other points? It's okay. Philosophical.
Beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. It's even I couldn't even think that there is a discrepancy of rasavas, but you brought it out. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. We didn't even go. I was like 100 miles away from that concept. So thank you for opening our eyes to that.
Thank you. And this one more thing is Anantam in the third line of this particular verse. It is a beautiful play of words in Sanskrit where it is mentioned in the text 8 itself. If you can just know in the text 8. Okay, we'll read the verse and then we'll describe it. Vibudhyatam balakamarika graham characharatma sanivile tekshanaha anantamaropayadankam yato ragam suktama buddhirajjudihi.
Malini Mataji, you want to read next translation? Hare Krishna, Malini Mataji?
No, I think
she's in mute.
Yeah. He can give to somebody and then.
Okay. Apna, you want to read, better?
Sure, Prabhu. Lord Sri Krishna, the all-pervading supersoul, lying on the bed, understood that Putana, a witch who was expert in killing small children, had come to kill him. Therefore, as if afraid of her, Krishna closed his eyes. Thus Putana took upon her lap him who was to be her own annihilation, just as an unintelligent person places a sleeping snake on his lap, taking the snake to be a rope.
So the beauty here is Anantam and Antakam. Um, Putana thought the Lord um, to be a rope, but he was a snake or poison. He was not. He was. She was thinking, "I'm going to kill this child," but not knowing that this child is Ananta or unlimited, and he can just. He has such powers that that it's unfathomable. And then one last point. Why did Krishna close his eyes? So the acharyas give many explanations for why Krishna closed his eyes. Um, the first demon he was supposed to kill was a woman, and it is mentioned in the Vedic literatures that um, five classes of people or living beings cannot be killed when they do a mistake, and the five classes are women, cows, old um, older members, uh, children, and brahmanas. And under no circumstances they should be killed. But Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, and he's called uh, Swarat. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned Janmadyasya yaton vayat itaratas chateshva abhignya Swarat. Tene Brahma. So that verse goes where he's mentioned as Swarat, he's supremely independent. And here, so she had to be killed. And so the Lord closed his eyes. The second thing was he was acting in the human form of life. When you see usually parents, they know, the stranger anxiety, and therefore Krishna, acting the role of a normal human child, he closes his eyes. There are few other reasons, but these are the one or two primary reasons why Krishna chose to close his eyes when uh, Putana came to kill him. So let's do a few more verses and then we can. Tam tikshna chittam ativama cheshtitam vikshantara kosha parichadda shiva परस्त्रियं तत्प्रभया च दर्शिते निरीक्ष्यमाणे जननी ह्यस्तिताम्.
Malini Mataji, you can read now if you are.
Sure, Prabhu. Translation: Putana Rakshasi's heart was fierce and cruel, but she looked like a very affectionate mother. Thus she resembled a sharp sword with a soft sheath. Although seeing her within the room, Yashoda and Rohini, overwhelmed by her beauty, did not stop her, but remained silent because she treated the child like a mother.
Thank you. Here Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that Putana, many demons symbolize the discrepancies either within our own heart or in general the society. For example, Shakatasura was the anartha representing, excuse me, representing our own, ritualistic burdens. And Putana represented the false gurus. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes there are two kinds of false gurus. One is external and one is internal. The external false guru collects disciples only for maintaining, squeezing money from them, trying to get some power and prestige and some fame in the society. There is no question of any sort of helping the disciples with the spiritual advancement. So this is just and teaching them some hodgepodge, whatever is suitable. Because if you are expecting remuneration and praise and honor from your disciples, then you better actually teach to what they like. Otherwise, they may not give you that money. That fear is always there. In fact, Shukadeva Goswami, he condemns this in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where he says that, are there not torn cloths lying on the street? Are there not your hands which are given to be used as cups? Are there not your arms as pillows? Is there not a flat bed for lying down? So on and so forth. And in that he says, if the Supreme Absolute Truth can maintain his devotees, then why do the learned people go and praise in the courts of rich men, trying to appease them? So, when in our own, so we have to be careful of such gurus who can actually have no real self-interest of the disciple at heart, but their own self-interest of just maintaining their guruship, if you will. And then the internal guru is the mind that kind of says, the scientist's mind, that is like a putana demon, that unless I see it, unless I validate it, I won't accept it as truth. And only logic dictates the truth. Only my own experiments validate the truth. So these are the two kinds of false gurus that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes one should avoid. Next verse, please. Tasmin stanam durjaraviryamuldhanam Ghorankamadaya shishordadavata Gadam karabhyam bhagavan prapidyata Pranay samam rosha samanvito piba.
Meera Mataji, you can read.
Can I read the translation?
Yes, yes.
Okay. On that very spot, the fiercely dangerous Rakshasi took Krishna on her lap and pushed her breast into his mouth. The nipple of her breast was smeared with a dangerous, immediately effective poison. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, becoming very angry at her, took hold of her breast, squeezed it very hard with both hands, and sucked out both the poison and her life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, wouldn't the Lord be guilty of being swayed by emotions? When Krishna says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshyosti napriyaha. But here Krishna is actually being very angry at this demon. So how is he saying that I'm equal to all? Um, the idea here is that Krishna was not angry with the demon for attacking him, but for rather killing the babies. Yeah. There is nothing more unnerving than kind of killing the babies. And there is they are gentle souls, completely innocent and helpless. And the whole world, even the most grumpiest person in the room will not have like a faint smile when a baby looks at him and smiles at him. It's just the nature of the babies that universally attracts. And here was this terrible Rakshasi who had no compunction whatsoever, just killing hundreds of babies with her deadly breasts smeared with poison. So Krishna was angry on account of the other babies that were killed. Next verse. समुञ्चमुञ्चालमिति प्रभाषिणी निष्पीड्यमानाखिलजीवमर्मणि विवृत्य नेत्रे चरणौ भुजौ मुहुः प्रश्विन्नगात्रा क्षिपतिरुरोदः.
Sachin Prabhu, are you able to read?
Yes, Prabhu, I can read. Unbearably pressed in every vital point, the demon Putana began to cry, "Please leave me, suck my breast no longer." Perspiring, her eyes wide open and her arms, legs flailing, she cried very loudly again and again.
Thank you. Next verse. तस्या स्वनेनानिति sorry तस्या स्वनेनातिगभीररंहसा सदृर्महीद्यौश्च चाचालसगृहा प्रसादिशश्च प्रतिनेदिरे जना पेतुक्षितौ वज्रनिपातशङ्कया.
Simi Mataji, can you read, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes. As Putna screamed loudly and forcefully, the earth and its mountains and the outer space with its planets trembled. The lower planets and all directions vibrated, and people fell down, fearing that thunderbolts were falling upon them. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Srimati. Next verse. निशाचरितं व्यतितास्तनव्यसुर व्यादाय केमा व्यादाय केशांश्चरणौ भुजावपि प्रशार्य गोष्ठे निजरूप आस्थिता वज्राहतो वृत्र इवापतन् नृपा.
Darshan Mohan Prabhuji, can you please read the translation?
Sure, Prabhuji. The Putna was a great Rakshasi who knew the art of covering her original, translation. In this way, the demon Putna, very much aggrieved because her breast was being attacked by Krishna, lost her life. O King Parikshit, opening her mouth wide and spreading her arms, legs, and hairs, she fell down in the pasturing ground in her original form as a Rakshasi, as Vritrasura had fallen when killed by the thunderbolt of Indra.
Thank you. So the comparison is apt because Vritrasura was a very powerful demon, and it is mentioned here that that Putana was 6 miles in height. You can only imagine. Um, 6 miles is her body length was 6 miles. The Mount Everest of today is about 1 kilometer in the sky, and 6 miles is 9.6 kilometers. And so she was 10 times taller than Mount Everest, and you can get a fair idea of the gigantic size of Putana. Did Krishna, but then why didn't Krishna expand his form? Because it's a natural question. I mean, if he wanted to expand, he could actually expand, and it was not very difficult for him. When he came as Lord Vamana, was he the small boy when he kind of asked for 3 steps of land? It is mentioned that he grew to such an extent that within 2 steps he covered everything. So you can imagine only the size of the Supreme Absolute Truth if he chooses to expand. But why didn't he expand? Why was he still in the small baby like Krishna when he killed Putana? One of the beautiful, endearing aspects of Vraja pastimes is Krishna is so absorbed in playing or exchanging love with his devotees, he takes every single precaution to make sure that his devotees in Vrindavan are not disturbed in their rasa towards him. He makes sure that they don't get the feeling that he is the supreme absolute truth, lest they break their loving affection for him and start actually worshipping him. And the Lord doesn't want that. In fact, in many of the acharyas' writing, it's mentioned in so many places the chastisement and the sulky nature of the gopis and the strong words they use to rebuke him gives much more pleasure to Krishna than the Brahmanas chanting the Vedic hymns. So here Krishna, in the same mood, he didn't want to disturb the residents of Vraja by expanding himself into 6 or more miles to kill Putana. That is one reason. And the second reason is Krishna or his power is not dependent on his manifested size. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. He has all his powers at all places, at all circumstances. They are fully under his control. His Shaktis are completely under his control, and they are ready to serve him wherever he wants. So the Acharyas write, actually, it is the Samhara Shakti or the destructive potency of Krishna that actually killed. Krishna was just merely just the cause, not the instrument. The example used is, if a person takes an axe and he cuts the tree, it is actually the person not cutting the tree, but the axe that is the direct cause. So similarly, his destructive potency came to fore. When Krishna doesn't want to physically expand, he can employ any of his energies. Even without his energies, he can still kill. But it's mentioned here not to disturb the rasa, that he didn't expand his size. But did Putana expand? We'll see in the next few verses. Vatamanopi tadehas trigavyuta antaradruman druman sorry trigavyutyantara churnayamasa rajendra mahadasi tadadbhutam.
Navid Prabhuji, you want to read the translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes. O King Parikshit, when the gigantic body of Putana fell to the ground, it smashed all the trees within a limit of 12 miles. Appearing in a gigantic body, she was certainly extraordinary.
Thank you. So here 6 miles, 12 miles, the discrepancy is Sanskrit, it is mentioned as Shat Krosha. And depending on how you change Krosha, at some places, 1 Krosha is taken as 2 miles, or some places it's just literally 1 Krosha is taken as 1 mile. So that's the reason you'll find discrepancies. But nevertheless, her form was pretty gigantic, and um, it she expanded into her form. And why did Putana expand her into that form? Because at the time of death, or when a person is suddenly awakened, it's revealed. So there is the story of Akbar and Birbal. And once a person, a very unknown, strange person, comes to Akbar's court, and he throws a challenge at Akbar. He says, "O king, I'm fluent in many, many, many languages. If in your court, if anybody can find out which part of the world I'm originally from, then I accept defeat. Otherwise, you should give me the certificate of victory." I mean, modern references can bear in those days certificate of victories, whatever way you want to call it. But so you should give me a certificate of victory. And then many different linguists, scholars came, and they started questioning this particular unknown man in their own language. And he was perfectly able to answer. the dictation or the dialect, and everything was flawless, and they couldn't detect which part of the world he was based on the quizzes or based on the questions that they asked him. He was able to answer it perfectly. And then Akbar calls Birbal. He says, Birbal, we are in trouble. We'll be embarrassed if we don't find out, the origin or the place from which this man comes from. So you better do something. And then Birbal, he asks his servant to go find out where that particular man is staying or where he is lodged. And then and once he gets back the information, then Birbal goes that night to the house where this man is sleeping, and he takes really good amount of very cold water and just pours on that man when he's sleeping, and the man is startled and starts speaking in his native tongue. Now you cannot control at that time which tongue you can speak on. So next day morning, Birbal says, "Oh, this person is from this particular place," and the person accepts defeat. Point in the story is that um, at the time of death, Putana couldn't withhold, contain, or masquerade anymore as this beautiful person that was described in this chapter, but showed her ugly form. And oh boy, what form was it? We'll see in the next few verses. Also, one last point before I go. She fell. Imagine a 12-mile structure falling on San Jose or Fremont or Foster City or Milpitas or any one of the cities, a 12 mile or a 6 to 12 mile. Let's not make it really more dramatic or drastic. 6 mile is good enough for talking. If a 6 mile huge structure falls on, and it's mentioned, it's not just a length, but also it's the width, the girth. It's like it just falls like a slab on it. How many houses do you think approximately will be crushed? Quite few. And then, needless to say, the residents of those houses will be instantaneously crushed to chutney. But in this case, it is mentioned that none of the cows or the deer or the peacocks or the parrots of Vrindavan were ever crushed or harmed in any form or fashion when Putana actually fell down to the ground. In fact, Vishwanath Chakravarti, he says that it so happened that she fell in such a way that Kamsa's favorite gardens were completely destroyed by her falling in Vrindavan. So, when you, this is an apt moral that when you try with the evil scheme, try to destroy others, it will actually come back to affect you, but not the person who is already protected by Krishna. So let's read a little bit more. Ishamatro strashyam girikandharanasikam gandashailastanam raudram prakirnaruna murdhajam andakupagabhiraksham Ulinaroha bhishanam baddhasetu bujorvangri shunyatoya hradodaram santatrashu smat tadviksha gopagopya kalevaram purvam tu tannihishvanita vinnahrit karna mastakaha.
Ketaki Mataji, you want to read? Ketaki Mataji.
Hello.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Shall I read the translation?
Yes, Mataji.
The Rakshasi's mouth was full of teeth, each resembling the front of a plough. Her nostrils were deep like mountain caves, and her breasts resembled big slabs of stones fallen from a hill. Her scattered hair was the color of copper. The sockets of her eyes appeared deep blind wells. Her fearful thighs resembled the banks of the river. Her arms, legs, and feet seemed like bridges, and her abdomen appeared like a dried up lake. The hearts, ears, and heads of the coward men and women were already shocked by the Rakshasi's screaming, and when they saw the fierce wonder of her body, they were even more frightened.
Thank you. बालं च तस्य उरसि क्रीडन्तम् अकुतो भयम् कोऽप्यस्तूर्णं समाप्येत्य जगृर्जातसम्भ्रमा.
Tadya Seva Prabhuji, can you please read?
Translation? Is
Yes,
that right,
Prabhuji.
Prabhu?
Yes,
Or you want
only
to
translation. Only translation.
Only translation, right? Without fear, the child Krishna was playing on the upper portion of Putana Rakshasi's breast. And when the gopis saw the child's wonderful activities, they immediately came forward with great jubilation and picked him up.
Thank you. Next
Thank you.
one. यशोदरोहिणीभ्यां ता समं बालस्य सर्वतः रक्षां विदधीर सम्यक् गोपुच्च भ्रमणादिभिः.
Niharika, can you please read? Translation.
Yes, Prabhu. Thereafter, Mother Yashoda and Rohini, along with other elderly gopis, waved about the stitch of the cow to give full protection to the child Sri Krishna.
Thank you. The falling of a slab, of stone. One example is given, or the practical thing that we can see is in the Yosemite National Forest. We have those sheer cliffs, and those sheer cliffs, at times, um, the chunk of rocks from the side of the cliffs, they get separated from the mountains and they just fall, and there have been few deaths like that. But I heard, like, the slabs that can fall are like two or no not 2 or 3, 10 or 15 tons, that the weight they can come and they can just fall. And you can only imagine the shock. Just as it is mentioned, the screaming itself was so intense that it reached even the lower planetary systems. And then that was itself, a blood curdling scream is good enough to kind of, and literally it is called a blood curdling scream, because it can curdle or, like, solidify the blood by the fierceness of its scream. And on top of it, seeing this gigantic, horrifying Rakshasi just lying there, and then baby Krishna is like, in her breasts were like mountain peaks, and then he was on the top of that. So you can just only imagine the consternation and the anxiety of the residents of Vrindavan, that they were witnessing this. Next few verses, please. गोमूत्रेण स्नापयित्वा पुनर्गोराजसार्भकं रक्षां चक्रुश्च शकृता द्वादशाङ्गेषु नामभिः.
Is there anyone who has not read yet?
Kuladvipa Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you, Babuji. Translation. The child was thoroughly washed with cow urine and then smeared with the dust raised by the movements of the cows. Then different names of the Lord were applied with cow dung on 12 different parts of his body. beginning with the forehead, as done in applying tilaka. In this way, the child was given protection.
And I ask you to just read for the next two verses and then you can call upon others. Gopya samsprishta shalila ange shukarayo pritak nashyatmani atabalasya vijanyasam akurvata.
The gopis first executed the process of achman, drinking a sip of water from the right hand. They purified their bodies and hands with their nyasa mantra and then applied the same mantra upon the body of the child.
Thank you. Avyadajongri manimanastava janavathuru yajñochuta katitatam jataram hayasyaha Ritkeshavatvaduраisha inastu kantham Vishnurбhujam mukam urukrama ishwarakam Chakragratas saho gadaharirastu paschat Tvatpashvayordanurasi madhuhajanascha Koneshu shanka urugaya uparyupendras Takshakshitau haladara purushas samanta. And this is I'm praying and I'm hoping that everybody who is in the audience may have the same kind of protection. So go.
Translation: Shukdev Goswami informed Maharaj Parikshit that the gopis, following the proper system, protected Krishna, their child, with this mantra. May Aja protect your legs, may Maniman protect your knees, Yagya your thighs, Achyuta the upper part of your waist, and Hayagriva your abdomen. May Keshava protect your heart, Isha your chest, the sun god your neck, Vishnu your arms, Urukrama your face, and Ishvara your head. May Chakri protect you from the front, may Sri Hari, Gadadhari, the carrier of the club, protect you from the back, and may the carrier of the bow, who is known as the enemy of Madhu, and Lord Ajana, the carrier of the sword, protect your two sides. May Lord Urugaya, the carrier of the conch shell, protect you from all corners. May Upendra protect you from above. May Garuda protect you on the ground. And may Lord Haladhar, the Supreme Person, protect you on all sides. Thank you.
Thank you. Indriyani Hrishikeshah Prananarayano Shvetadvipapatischitam Mano Yogeshwaro
Shraddha Mataji.
May Rishikesh protect your senses and Narayan your life air. May the master of Shvetadvipa protect the core of your heart, and may Lord Yogeshwar protect your mind.
Thank you, Mata. Prishnigarbhastu te buddhim atmanam bhagavan paraha Kridantam patu govindaha shayanam patu madhavaha Prajantam avyad vaikuntha asinam tvam sriyapatihi Unjanam yajnabhuk patu sarvagraha bhayankaraha.
Malini Mataji, can you please read?
Sure, Prabhu. May Lord Prishnigarbha protect your intelligence and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, your soul. While you are playing, may Govinda protect you, and while you are sleeping, may Madhava protect you. May Lord Vaikuntha protect you while you are walking, and may Lord Narayan, the husband of the goddess of fortune, protect you while you are sitting. Similarly, may Lord Yajnabhuk, the fearful enemy of all evil planets, always protect you while you enjoy life. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Dakinyo yata yatudhanyascha kusmandayervakagraha Bhutapretapisashascha yaksharaksho vinayaka Kotararevati jeshta Putana matrukadayaha Unmadahehi apasmara Deha pranendriyadruha Swapnadrishta mahopata Vriddhavala grihaschaye Sarve nashyantu te Vishnur Namagrahanabhiravaha.
Nandarvika Radha Mataji.
Sure. The evil witches known as Dakinis Yatudhanis, and Kushmandas are the greatest enemies of children, and the evil spirits like Bhutas, Pretas, Pishachas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, and Vinayakas, as well as witches like Kotara, Revati, Jyeshta, Putana, and Matrika, are always ready to give trouble to the body, the life air, and the senses, causing loss of memory, madness, and bad dreams. Like the most experienced evil stars, they all create great disturbances, especially for children, but one can vanquish them simply by uttering Lord Vishnu's name. For when Lord Vishnu's name resounds, all of them become afraid and go away.
Thank you, Martin. So just see the power of the holy name of Krishna. When we chant the names of Krishna, what sort of miraculous things can happen? Even if you don't have complete faith, even if we don't chant Krishna on the uh, with on the platform of spontaneous devotional service, but just by utterance of the name of Krishna, all these kinds of different um, troublesome influences will just vanish far away. Next verses, please. श्रीशुक उवाच इति प्रणयाबद्धभिर्गोपीभिः कृतरक्षणं पयायित्वा माता संन्यावेश्य आत्मजम्.
Dheera Prashant Prabhuji.
Okay, Prabhuji. Srila Sukadeva Goswami, sorry.
We cannot hear you, Dheera Prashant Prabhuji.
Oh, sorry, I'm on the mute, Prabhuji. Sorry. Srila Sukadeva Goswami continued. All the gopis, headed by Mother Yashoda, were bound by material affection. After they thus chanted the mantras to protect the child, Mother Yashoda gave the child the nipple of her breast to suck and then got him to lie down on his bed.
Thank you, Dheeraj. Maternal affection is strong. Text 31. तावानन्दादयो गोपा मथुराया व्रजङ्गताः विलोक्य पूतना देहं बभूवुरतिविस्मिता.
Raj Prabhuji, I think we missed you last time. Hare Krishna, Raj Prabhu. Okay, if he's not available. Darshan Mohan Prabhu, can you please read?
Sure, Prabhuji. Meanwhile, all the cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, returned from Mathura, and when they saw on the way the gigantic body of Putna lying dead, they were struck with great wonder.
Thank you. Next verse. नूनाम्बतर्षि सञ्जातो योगेशो वा समाससः स एव दृष्टो ह्युत्पातो यद् आहानाकदुन्दुभिः.
Ankur Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Nanda Maharaj and the other Gopas exclaimed, "My dear friends, you must know that Anakadundubhi Vasudev has become a great saint or a master of mystic power. Otherwise, how could he have foreseen this calamity and predicted it to us?" Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next verse. कलेवरं परशुभिश्चित्वा तत्ते व्रजौकशं दूरे क्षिप्त्वा वशो यादहन् काष्ठवेष्टितम्.
Indukanda Mataji.
The inhabitants of Raj cut the gigantic body of Putana into pieces with the help of axes. Then they threw the pieces far away, covered them with wood, and burned them to ashes.
Thank you. Text 34. दह्यमानस्य देहस्य धूमश्च गुरुशौरवः उत्थिता कृष्णनिर्भुक्ता शपद्याः तपात्मनः.
Tadya Seva Prabhuji. Okay, Timinandi Prabhuji, can you please read?
Thank you, Prabhu. Because of Krishna's having sucked the breast of the Rakshasi Putana, when Krishna killed her, she was immediately freed of all material contamination. Her sinful reactions automatically vanished, and therefore, when her gigantic body was being burnt, the smoke emanating from her body was fragrant like agadu incense.
Thank you. Here, the couple of things is, when a person, when there is a crime scene and a person has been killed or appears to be dead, the first thing that happens is the people, the 911, the 911 people, they come, and the first thing they check is the vital signs of the person who is dead, making sure that he or she is alive or dead, and then further things can be done. But which part of how big a stethoscope you need for Putana to verify if she's alive or dead, if at all you can get such a thing? And even if you can get such a thing, it will be at least, about 1 or 2 kilometers in radius. Who's going to lift that kind of gigantic thing and put it to the heart? So, it is mentioned that the snake, when it is killed, Prabhupada writes in the purport that it's cut into pieces because sometimes they were afraid of this. It can be a fault on the Brajavasis that, they just did such a horrible thing of actually cutting. It's not a nice thing to do, just to cut a dead body. On top of it, a 6-mile dead body or a 12-mile dead body is no fun to cut. And, it's just, but here they cut it because they didn't know whether she was alive or dead. And they were really afraid that she might somehow or other become alive again and attack Krishna and kill him. So out of intense love for Krishna, they made sure that she was indeed dead. And therefore they cut her into pieces. And then the Acharyas explained, because she saw the darshan of Krishna, Krishna's beautiful lips touched her body, because of which all the contamination or the sinful reactions were totally destroyed. It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yadikshanam yad smaranam yad bandhanam. That is, let me look up that verse. Yadikshanam yad smaranam. Let me look it up, that verse. We can protect it. We can project it on that. 2:4. Yadikshanam yad smaranam. Let's look up the word Yadikshanam then. It's fun running through the Vedas and trying to get some verses. I think it's a good investigative effort. Prabhu, do you know which verse are we talking about? Yadikshanam yad.
No, Prabhuji, I'm also trying to look it up.
It's there in Shloka book. It's 2:4. Let me look it up. Svadopi Shatya Shavanaya Kalpate.
Oh, that is Ahavata Sapachate Gorian, right?
No, this is different. Shvadopi Shatya Shavanaya Kalpate Kutah Punaste Bhagavan Darshana.
Prabhu, do you know what book you're searching in?
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Oh.
Is that chapter, Canto 2nd, chapter 4, text 15?
Thank you so much, Tadya sir. I was in 2.4. I remembered that. 2.4, 15, Prabhu?
Yeah, 2.4.15.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. This is Sutta Goswami's Mangalacharan prayers when he speaks Srimad Bhagavatam. This is beautiful, beautiful prayers. Yad kirtanam yad smaranam yad ikshanam yad vandanam yad shravanam yad arhanam lokasya sadyo vidunoti kalmasham tasmai subhadra shravase namo namaha. Thank you, Prabhu. I think I confused you, Prabhu. So this is the one. Where is it mentioned that if you hear about the glories of the Lord, then your sins are destroyed? What to speaking of seeing Him? That is the verse I was looking for. Anyway, we can find that particular verse. The verse
That
is
is 333:6.
Thank you. That's all. Sorry, Prabhu. Sorry, I'm confusing everybody. You know my poor fund of knowledge. No, it's completely exposed. There's no. It's beyond the shadow of any doubt. All right, 333:6. Thank you. Yes, thank you, son. Okay, this one, sorry. Yannamadeya Shravanano Kirtanad Yapravarnad Yasmaranadapi Koche Shvadopi Shadya Savanaya Kalpate Kuta Punaste Bhagavan Darshana. Somebody can do the translation.
Niharika, you want to go ahead?
To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face, even a person born in a family of dog-eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him.
So here it is mentioned that to say nothing of persons who see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, which Putana did. It's amazing of how she got the good fortune of seeing Krishna face to face. So this verse of Bhagavatam confirms just hearing about his glories. We at times feel we are a little unfortunate because we cannot see Krishna face to face. But Bhagavatam assures us that one who hears about the glories of Krishna and who chants his names are immediately cleansed of mountains and mountains of sins. And here Putana was able to actually see Krishna face to face. And you can only imagine the amount of sins that completely got destroyed. And here is another point. Now, cutting the body of Putana was itself not the fun activity to do. But what about burning it? 6 miles of burning of an ordinary flesh would create such a putrid smell that it would be unbearable to live. Here, the Supreme Absolute Truth takes every effort to make sure that Vrindavan is not affected. And therefore, instead of that putrid, disgusting, and horrible smell that can come from this kind of activity, Bhagavatam says that Aguru smell came out. It's one of the finest smells that you can get. And here, the beauty is 6 miles of Aguru rather than 6 miles of putrid smell. For days and days, the inhabitants of Vrindavan could enjoy the fragrant smell of the smoke which comes from the body of Putana. So he makes sure that the Vrindavan Vasis never feel out of place or discomforted by his activities. It's amazing. Next verses, last few verses, and we can stop. 7 more minutes. Sorry, I'm going a little long. Sorry. Yeah, Sanskrit, thank you. I can't read the first line on the top. You have to pull it down. Yeah, thank you. Putanalokabalagni Rakshasi Rudirashana Jigamshaya Haraye Stanam Dattvapi Sadgatim Kim Puna Shraddaya Bhakta Krishnaya Paramatmane Yachan Priya Tamam Kimnu Raktastan Mataro Yatha.
Tadiya Seva Prabhuji, can you please read?
Yes, Prabhu. Putana was always hankering for the blood of human children, and with that desire, she came to kill Krishna. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. What then is to be said of those who had natural devotion and affection for Krishna as mothers, and who offered him their breasts to suck, or offered something very dear as a mother offers something to a child?
So now the charge against Krishna that he was angry, which means he hated Putana, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, that verse that we were talking about earlier, you can see how Krishna is the absolute good. Even though Putana came to kill him, Krishna, he didn't see the fact that she came to kill him. But she said, okay, she came at least disguised as a nurse. She had some sort of affection for me. And then she kind of gave me some service, and he took that into consideration. If this is the nature of the supreme absolute truth, who in 6 miles of fault can see one small drop of service and give you the highest benediction? Where do we need to go take shelter for, or who do we need to take shelter of? And in fact, this was so mind boggling to Uddhava. It was something that shook him to the core, that he sings this prayer in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is 3 to 23. This time I know the verse. Kaladeepa Prabhu is smiling. Thank you. Shraddhamati also as well, so that's good news.
Hare Krishna, Srivasa Pandit Prabhu ki jai ho.
Hey, Balivardhan Prabhu, Hari Bol. Thank you for joining.
Hari Bol. So wonderful, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Nice reflections on the Putana and Krishna's pastimes. It was going deep to the heart.
Now that you came, then our reading is successful, Balivardhan Prabhu.
Oh, my life is successful by joining. I've been there listening long time. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you for.
Thanks for giving your association, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So this aspect of Krishna, this extreme kindness, this extreme mercy of Krishna, that he chose this horrible, villains going wise. Every society has a special disgust for those who abuse children. There is, they just, it is just not, how do we say, it is not just not possible. In US itself, any pedophiles and any people who abuse children physically or otherwise, they are given harsh punishments, and everybody's disgust is aroused. In fact, a person tries to find the house, first thing they will do if they have a family and young children is, in my neighborhood, is there anybody quote unquote sex offender, and I have to be careful. And that is the kind of nature that we have. And you cannot but be helped disgusted with Putana just because of taking this beautiful children and just killing them, in an instant with a deadly poison. And then here Krishna comes. He says, you came here to give me a little bit of service. I'm going to give you the benediction that is highest. And highest is almost highest. And we'll get to that. So let's project that particular verse. We have 2 more minutes. We'll try to wrap up. And then we can just go 3 to 23, please. Oh. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigam sayadapapaya yatapya sadhi leive gatim da truchitam tatonyam kamva dayalum sharanam rajema.
Balivante Prabhu, can you please read this special verse translation?
Sure, bro. Let me try. I'm in the phone, but alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast.
Thank you, Balimadan Prabhu. So the acharyas explain that then the bigger question will come is, well, it's same, so why can't I be a demon? Or on second thought, why take so many rules and regulations for Krishna? Why do something nice for Krishna? Anyway, he's giving one way or other, it doesn't matter, let be. But here it is, and then still they are getting the position of the mother of as a nurse in Goloka. The acharyas explain not yet, because in the Bhagavatam itself, it is saying that if she was able to get that position, then what to speak of the loving devotees means that there is a differentiation. If it is the same, then you wouldn't say of this. For example, if I say that, if somebody is close, for example, to Valimardhan Prabhu, and then, then you can say, like, what sort of mercy he gets. He got some mercy because he's close, but if he is his family member, then you can only imagine. It means extra, which means more. There is a differentiation when you say what is to be said of. So which means that the higher or much more mercy comes when you talk of loving devotion to Krishna. And so Putana got the position of nurse in Vrindavan, along with Ambik. There is two names, Kalimbi, and two names who are nurses of Krishna, and therefore she got. Let's wrap up this chapter, and then we can stop, because I want to get that to the benediction part, the Falastuti. Otherwise, it's not complete. Padyabhyam bhakta hridistabhyam vandabhyam lokavanditay angam yasya samakramya bhagavan api tatstanam yatu danyanyapi sasvargam avapa janani gatim Krishna bhukta kshiraha kimugavo numataraha.
Apramya, you want to read, beta?
Sir Prabhu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is always situated within the core of the heart of the pure devotee, and he is always offered prayers by such worshipable personalities as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Because Krishna embraced Putana's body with great pleasure and sucked her breast, although she was a great witch, she attained the position of a mother in the transcendental world and thus achieved the highest perfection. What then is to be said of the cows whose nipples Krishna sucked with great pleasure, and who offered their milk very jubilantly with affection exactly like that of a mother?
The Bhagavatam, if you have any doubts, again removes it. Just what to say of the destination or the happiness that the loving devotees get. Next verse, please. Payamsi yasham apibat putra sneha sutanyalam bhagavan devaki putraha kaivalyadi akila pradaha तासामाविरतां कृष्णे कुर्वतीनां सुतेक्षणं न पुनः कल्पते राजन् samsaro jnana sambhavaha.
Naveen Prabhuji, you want to read the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the bestower of many benedictions, including liberation, Kaivalya, a oneness with the Brahman effulgence. For that personality of Godhead, the gopis always felt maternal love, and Krishna sucked their breasts with full satisfaction. Therefore, because of their relationship as mother and son, although the gopis were engaged in various family activities, one should never think that they returned to this material world after leaving their bodies.
Thank you. Next verse. Katadhumasya saurabhyam avagraya vrajokasah kimidam kuta eveti vadanto vrajamayuhu.
Sri Mataji, can you please read?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Upon smelling the fragrance of smoke emanating from Putana's burning body, many inhabitants of Vrajabhumi in distant places were astonished. Where is this fragrance coming from? They asked. Thus they went to the spot where Putana's body was being burnt. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Text 42. Te tatra varnitam gopay पूतनागमनादिकं श्रुत्वा तन्निधनं स्वस्ति शिशोश्चासन् सुविस्मिताः.
Sachin Prabhu, can you please read?
Yes, Prabhu. When the inhabitants of Vraja who had come from distant places heard the whole story of how Putana had come and then been killed by Krishna, they were certainly astonished, and they offered their blessings to the child for his wonderful deed of killing Putana. Nanda Maharaja, of course, was very much obliged to Vasudeva, who had foreseen the incident, and simply thanked him, thinking how wonderful Vasudeva was.
Thank you. And at the earlier in the chapter, Nanda Maharaj, when he hears of the danger, he just prays to Krishna. Oh Krishna, he takes shelter of him. So we do have so many dangers that are afflicting us, and 2020 was an year, especially for Californians, with COVID and forest fires and economy and every which way. So our best hope is to take shelter of Krishna and feel the fearlessness that can come in. Text 43. Nandasvaputra adaya pretyagatamudaradihi mudni upagrahya paraman mudam lebhe kurudvaha.
Meera Mataji, can you please read?
Translation. O Maharaja Pariksit, best of the Kurus, Nanda Maharaj was very liberal and simple. He immediately took his son Krishna on his lap as if Krishna had returned from death. And by formally smelling his son's head, Nanda Maharaj undoubtedly enjoyed transcendental bliss. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Last verse, please. Ya etat putana moksham krishnasyaarbhakamadbhutam Shunuyat Shraddhaya Martyo Govinde Labhate Ratim.
Rohini, can you please read the last one?
Yes, Prabhuji. Any person who hears with faith and devotion about how Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, killed Putana, and who thus invests his hearing in such childhood pastimes of Krishna, certainly attains attachment for Govinda, the Supreme Original Person.
I just pray that everybody on the call and everybody at ISV may attain attachment to the lotus feet of Govinda, who is the supreme shelter, and may we all remain fixed in service to him. As the time runs by, our bodies are going to eventually be destroyed, and we'll move on from ISV, California, maybe this universe, you never know. But what we have done today to read the pastimes of Krishna is ours forever to keep, and nobody can take that away. No time, space, karma, demigods, nobody can take away that little bit of attachment that we have achieved to the lotus feet of Krishna by remembering the beautiful pastime of Krishna killing the Putana demon. Thank you so very much. Any final words of wisdom, Balimaradhan Prabhu, before we go?
No, Prabhuji, we felt like we are really relieved by these clauses of, all the demons just Mahanadi Maharaj described, each demon like Aghasura or Putana or all they represent a different material manifestation of problems. And it is how it is counterattacked by remembering such pastimes. That is awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, sorry, Gandharika Masiji, I ran over a little late, but I'll see you when I see you, when Krishna allows me. Thank you so much. I think we'll end the class by once getting all the devotion that we can muster within within the core of our heart, every single ounce of devotion, sincerity, and faith that we have in Krishna, and just to put our palms to our heart close to Krishna, and then just loudly call out his name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Shastri.
Hare Krishna.
Amazing.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, then what to
Hare Krishna.
Malini, you have something to say? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I
Hare
have something to say. I just wanted to say that tomorrow is Shraddha Mataji's birthday.
Oh.
Hari oh.
Hari Bol. Hare
Hare
Krishna to you. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna, dear Shraddha Mataji. Hare Krishna to you.
I think yesterday also Brindavan Priya's birthday was there yesterday. So
Acha, acha, acha. Hari Bol. Many,
Hari-
many.
Is he back, Prabhu?
yeah, he's back. Yeah.
Very nice.
Hare
Belated
Krishna.
birthday wishes to Brindavan Priya too as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.
ISKCON Srivasa Pandit Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you for
Jai.
making it so short and nice, right? It was nice. I think he